In Marietta, Georgia, when a lonely divorcee meets a handsome model, her way of life shifts from pain to pleasure.
My mom seemed to be head over heels for him.
But soon, money problems turn the hot and heavy romance into a sinister spree of terror.
She needed him desperately enough that she was willing to do whatever he asked of her.
They weren't gonna let us live.
And later, in Texas, Ashley Irvin is only 17 years old, but she's ready to take the world by storm.
She knew what she wanted in life and did everything she needed to do to achieve those goals.
Until young love has her driving towards a dark and dismal future.
She was on a path straight to disaster.
And she did it all for her man.
In Memphis, Tennessee, teenager Belinda Henry grows up in a loving family. She's happy and takes every opportunity to show it.
My mom was beautiful inside and out. She was very giving and caring. I remember her voice would be like so light and airy when she would sing.
Around the tender age of 21, Belinda marries her high school sweetheart. Early on, life is wonderful. But young love is hard to maintain. And 10 years in, things are less than perfect, and their turbulent relationship starts to affect their two children.
My mom and my dad were arguing about something. I can't remember what they were arguing about, but I know I was sitting in my room with the door closed listening.
They try to make it work, but it just isn't meant to be. And after another year, Belinda and her husband call it quits.
When couples get together when they're very young, too often what happens is instead of growing together, these youngsters tend to just grow apart because they haven't really formed a sense of self.
But Belinda refuses to give up on love. A few years later, she meets a new man and once again ties the knot. She moves to Atlanta with her two kids and new hubby. But her second marriage is an even bigger disaster.
He did have a very bad attitude, and I think they probably clashed a lot because of that attitude.
And if that's not bad enough, Belinda suspects her husband is fooling around behind her back.
That was just like heartbreaking to her.
I just found a number in your jacket. Whose number is this?
To find out that she was being cheated on.
Her second marriage is over before she knows it, and it sends her into a downward spiral.
After that, that's probably when I realized that's when she was starting to get depressed, because that's when she would like just stay in her room all day, and she just said she was just so sad and just depressed and tired.
After the breakup of her second relationship, Belinda was really distraught. And it really would have served her well emotionally, psychologically, if she had taken the time to heal by herself, without a man.
Now 38, she decides to make a fresh start 20 miles away in Marietta, Georgia.
So I think change scenery was well needed after what had happened with her second husband.
And then one afternoon, it's her kids that convince Belinda to give love another chance.
We were in her room watching TV, and the chat line commercial came across the TV screen, and my brother was like,
Mom, you should call that number.
And we thought it was funny at the time, and that's how she met the next guy that she started dating.
The service hooks her up with 42-year-old Keith Henry, a former Marine and a current fashion model.
He did not look like a model. He looked like a regular, average, everyday man.
But Belinda immediately falls under his spell.
When Belinda got together with Keith, this was somewhat, for her, a healing kind of situation. She felt she wouldn't be abandoned.
The charmer also feels at ease enough to reveal his dark secrets.
He was a convicted felon. He had a prior conviction for armed robbery. He did 5 years in the Georgia State Penitentiary.
I was aware that he had a criminal past, that he had a long rap sheet, and me and my brother were looking like, what? And I guess it was like his way of intimidating us and letting us know, don't mess with me, because this is what I've done to people.
Keith's been a free man for the past 2 years, and Belinda is not slowed down one bit by his shady past. In fact, she falls into the same trap as her first 2 marriages. And after only about 3 months, Keith proposes, and she says,
Yes.
That was a big shock that she had went and married him. I didn't even know they were even thinking about marriage.
But it's not long before the romance is replaced with chaos.
Belinda had 2 children that she was trying to take care of. And now that she was married,
Disrespectful kid.
now he's an additional burden on her as well.
The bills keep piling up.
Yes, I paid the bill.
No one is knocking down Keith's door with modeling jobs.
Keith was an ex-convict and not able to get work. Really emasculated him, and that was a recipe for disaster.
Belinda!
As panic sets in, he decides to turn back to doing what comes naturally,
I got a plan.
stealing. Last time, his bank robberies landed him behind bars. But now, Keith has a surefire remedy to cure their financial woes and keep him out of prison.
You have to trust me.
Keith felt that a check cashing store would be a good target. Check cashing stores commonly bring in a lot of cash, and they are not as secure as banks.
Look, I mean, I got experience at this.
And he wants his woman by his side.
Yes.
Belinda did not have a prior criminal history. She came from a good family, and it becomes a very bad and very negative influence on her.
Trust me, it will work.
He was able to manipulate her to do anything to help him.
Okay?
With Belinda on board with the scheme to rob a check cashing store, the illicit lovers get to work.
His plan was to go to the manager's home very early in the morning and force the managers to provide him the codes and the means to enter the safe.
Then they'll hit the store before it opens and clean the place out.
Boom.
After a few days casing a local shop, they identify the perfect victim, 48-year-old Sheila Dates.
Sheila was the manager of a check cashing store in Marietta. She lived in Jonesboro in a small apartment complex with her daughter.
With no man or dog to cause problems, she looks like an easy target. Bright and early the next day, they make their move. It's a morning Sheila will never forget.
I was actually up bed and sleep, and my daughter Regina gets up. She came upstairs and told me that there were 2 FBI agents at the door that wanted to talk to me.
The couple had posed as FBI agents and bought cheap badges at a gun show.
I came downstairs and saw them with their badges, and I let them in.
The dangerous couple doesn't bother with pleasantries. As soon as the door shuts behind them, they pull their guns.
It was the most terrifying experience of my life.
No, please, no.
In Marietta, Georgia, Belinda Henry's husband, Keith, convinces her that the only way to claw themselves out of debt is armed robbery. Posing as FBI agents, they barge into the house of check-cashing store manager Sheila Dates and her 21-year-old daughter, Regina.
We were told to sit down on the couch, and if we cooperated, we would get out of this alive. If not, we both would go out in body bags.
They tie the women up and demand Sheila explain how to steal the cash at her work without alerting police.
I felt like there was nothing that I could do. I had to tell them exactly how to get into the store.
There's 3 doors you have to go through.
Using the codes for the alarm and for the safe.
0787.
But the process is more complicated than they could have ever imagined.
And more than 10 minutes before the store opens.
She tried to explain to Keith and Belinda Henry what they needed to do to get in the store, but they were not able to get it down just right. And that's when the plan changed.
Keith decides to change tactics.
Sheila would have to accompany Belinda to the store. He was going to stay at the apartment with her daughter, and that if anything went wrong, he would kill her.
At that point, I was in complete cooperation mode to make sure that nothing happened to my daughter.
Sheila turns to look at Regina, unsure if she will ever see her again.
That last moment was, I love you, Mommy. It was, I love you, baby girl. We couldn't say it, but we was seeing it in each other's eyes.
Belinda forces Sheila into Regina's car, and the two begin the drive to the check-cashing store 42 miles away in Marietta.
After we got in the car, she pulled the gun to let me know that she meant business and not to try anything. I knew that she was in control, and I had to do what she told me to do, or else I was gonna die.
Belinda's life was spiraling out of control, and her only anchor to reality is the hold that she has on Sheila.
30 minutes later, the women arrive at the store, and it's go time. They have to work quickly before the other employees arrive for their shift or the store opens and customers start to show up.
She was walking behind me, still with the gun pointed at me. We had to go through 3 doors to get to the safe.
In here!
Sheila conveniently leaves out a key detail in the store's security. A sensor keeps track of how many people are near the safe.
The system was set up so that the safe would not open if 2 people were present. What Sheila was hoping is that once they approached the safe together, this would alert the outside alarm source that something was amiss.
Come on, come on! Open it!
Sheila punches in the code. But just as she planned, the safe doesn't open.
Let's go,
Belinda starts to get anxious.
I know the password.
She saw that the door was not open and I could not get into the safe.
I need to call the security company.
I convinced her that if I didn't call them to unlock the safe, she wouldn't be able to get the money.
If you want to get in here, I need to call them.
Reluctantly, she allows her captive to call the security company, but warns her to keep it cool.
No tricks. No tricks.
I had already been warned not to talk in code, so I knew not to try to alert the security people.
Yes, that is the code I put in.
I called the security person, and the safe still didn't open.
It's still not working.
The sensors were picking up the presence of 2 people at the safe.
Yes.
An anxious Sheila is allowed to call the security company a second time. Now she is confident that they will follow protocol and know something is wrong. But instead, she gets the shock of her life.
I was hoping that they would ask me, is everything okay? And I could just say no. But they never did. They just opened it.
Belinda finally gets her hands on the cash.
She reached in, she put all of the bills in a bag, which totaled approximately $16,000.
She could have walked away the first time when the safe didn't open, or the second time, but Belinda knows that a man is counting on her, even though it goes against her humanity. But she's doing this for her man.
She was definitely under his power.
And back at Sheila's home, Keith is prepared to do whatever it takes, not to go back to jail.
They weren't gonna let us live.
And later in Houston, Texas, Ashley Irvin learns about life the hard way through her first love.
Ashley had her whole life ahead of her until she started dating Keith Ron.
She fell in love, she fell hard, and she lost her way.
In Marietta, Georgia, Belinda Henry and her husband Keith are robbing a check cashing store for some fast money. While Belinda forces manager Sheila Dates to help her clean out the safe, Keith is back at Sheila's house holding her 21-year-old daughter, Regina, hostage.
It was quite clear that Sheila and her daughter Regina were pawns to this game that Keith and Belinda had put together.
Keith told Sheila, if you don't fully cooperate and we don't get this money, I'm going to kill Regina.
Please don't shut up.
The last thing she said to me was, Mommy, do what they tell you to do.
But Keith has other plans.
He never intended to allow Regina to live.
Keith coldly ignores the frightened young woman's whimpers as she fears for her life.
He tied a cord around her neck and choked and asphyxiated her.
Regina was only 21 years old. And what's so horrific was that Keith had all along intended to murder Regina, to murder Sheila, because he didn't want to leave behind any witnesses. He didn't want to go back to jail.
After Keith is certain that Regina is dead, he calmly heads out to meet up with his wife. Back at the check cashing store, Belinda is now faced with holding up her end of the deal.
After Belinda got all of the money, I was thinking she was just gonna tie me up and just leave me in the store and go.
But her man, Keith, gave her explicit instructions.
He had told her that she had to kill me.
Why are you doing this? You have the money. You can just...
His intention was to eliminate witnesses.
I couldn't even tell you a reason why my mom would even think to go along with something like that. Had it not been for him, I honestly believe that she would never done anything like that.
Belinda knew that she had risked her own clean record, but she wanted to do anything she could for Keith, even if it meant losing any semblance of civility. And she knew that this wasn't the person she really wanted to be.
But there's no turning back for Belinda. Not wanting to draw attention with gunfire, she grabs a much quieter weapon. She even has some final words for Sheila.
She apologized and said, "I'm sorry," but still she'd strangled me anyway.
But Sheila isn't about to give up.
As she's pulling the cord around my neck tighter and tighter, I'm fighting harder and harder. The more I struggled, the more she pulled. There was blood all around my nose, and I fought for dear life for me and for my daughter until I passed out. Everything went black after that.
Once Sheila is out, Belinda grabs the bag of cash and runs for the door. She flees and dumps Sheila's car behind a strip mall and meets up with Keith, who is waiting for her, just as they planned. He asks if she killed the witness like he instructed, but all Belinda can say is, "I don't know." Back at the check cashing store, Sheila begins to stir.
My eyes can hardly see, but I'm alive. I drag myself to the phone to call 911 for help.
They send help right away, but Sheila only has one thing on her mind.
I think they killed my daughter. That's all I could say.
Investigators rush to her home and find Regina's lifeless body. Sheila is rushed to the hospital and she begs to know what happened to her daughter.
No one would give me an answer. Finally, the detectives said, "I know you've gone through an ordeal, but the man that stayed at the house killed your daughter."
Oh, not my baby. Oh, no, my baby.
I didn't want to believe it, but in my heart, I think I knew it was true, but it still was unreal.
Sheila gathers herself and gives the officers in minute detail anything she can remember about her captors.
That was my determination and motivation to make sure that they knew everything about these people so that they could catch them. I sat down with the sketch artist. I gave them a perfect description of the both of them.
The police now know what the perps look like, and they set out to find them. Meanwhile, Keith and Belinda are in the wind, 30 miles away.
They were staying at a local hotel, and if they watched the news, they would have heard that Sheila survived.
With a witness that could put them behind bars, Keith knows there's no turning back. He convinces Belinda to go on a crime spree. If they go down, they will go down in style.
In many ways, Belinda was being held captive by Keith. One thing she knew for sure was that she could not go back to the life that she once had.
Leaving her 2 kids behind, Keith and Belinda hightail it to Nashville and start to blow through the $16,000 in stolen cash. Keith is finally able to lavish his woman in the finer things in life.
They actually went shopping, and they bought jewelry and clothing, and they went out and ate.
But their once deep pockets are starting to run low. With nothing to lose and everything to gain, the deadly couple decide it's time to strike again.
Following the homicide and the robbery here in Georgia, they then rob a bank.
Belinda waits in the car, while Keith walks in, shows the teller a gun, and demands money.
Belinda knew what it was like to finally have that kind of money. So she was not in touch with reality, the reality of civility, the reality of humanity.
This time, Keith and Belinda get away with a cool $17,000 and splurge on a used Mercedes. The pair then make their way to Belinda's old stomping grounds in Memphis. But what the lovers don't know is that back in Georgia, investigators are hot on their trail. Thanks to Sheila's detailed descriptions, they have identified both Keith and Belinda Henry.
We were able to gather information on Keith, and that led us to their home in Marietta.
From there, police used cell phone towers to triangulate the couple's location.
Belinda was in communication with her friend in Chicago. These series of phone calls that Belinda made enabled the FBI to track them as they moved from Tennessee to New Jersey.
The next day, agents close in on them.
The FBI simply made a phone call into the room. Belinda answered the phone.
Hello.
And she was told, this is the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're out here. We have the location surrounded. We want you to come out.
Visibly shaken, Belinda shares the news with Keith.
Who was that?
FBI.
What?
They're here. It's over.
They here?
FBI, come out!
Keith knows that their time has just run out. He opens the door and raises his hands in the air. And then,
one single gunshot was fired.
the FBI have just surrounded the room of fugitive couple Belinda and Keith Henry at a motel off Route 1 in Elizabeth, New Jersey, when a single shot rings out from inside the room.
Keith slammed the door shut, and he went to check on Belinda.
Horrified, he sees his wife lying in a pool of blood on the bathroom floor. One shot to the head. Belinda has taken her own life.
She had been on this deadly roller coaster ride with Keith, and she couldn't come to terms with what she had done. And so, in her mind, the only way out was killing herself.
FBI, come out now!
The FBI heard this gunshot, and of course they didn't know what had transpired inside the room, so they directed Keith to come out.
Hands in the air, Keith is arrested without incident. FBI and local authorities rush in, but there is nothing they can do for Belinda. They take her distraught husband in for questioning, and he takes the entire blame for everything.
He confessed to the crime in its entirety. He confessed to his preparation for the crime. He confessed to the murder of Regina, and that he manipulated her.
My mom never would have done anything like that unless it was something just suggested by him. My mom had no criminal background, no tickets or anything. He preyed upon her and played my mom like a fiddle.
It appears that Keith showed some remorse. He most likely felt responsible for that, and perhaps felt that by confessing, this was the final gift that he could give her.
A few days later, Keith is extradited back to Georgia. He's charged with the murder of Regina Dates, impersonating an officer, and possession of a firearm as a convicted felon. But Keith has one startling request.
He said, tell the district attorney, I want the death penalty. I've never had that happen, ever, in any murder case I've ever investigated.
The state grants his wish. Keith Henry is found guilty on all charges and is sentenced to death. With Keith safely behind bars, Sheila Dates begins to pick up the pieces.
I had to forgive them. It helped me heal. My best friend's now gone. She may not be here physically, but in my heart and in my spirit, she lives on.
Belinda Henry lost her life in the hopes of building a better one, all in the name of love. A few states away in Houston, Texas, 16-year-old Ashley Irvin's once promising future comes to a screeching halt when she shifts her focus from books to a boy. Childhood starts out rocky for Ashley in Houston's inner city. Looking for a better life, her mother packs up the family.
Ashley was raised in a single-family home. Her father was not too much in her life.
She lived in the projects for a little while, and then her mom moved her to a neighborhood in North Houston.
Basically, I was the mother and the father.
And she refuses to let any disadvantage slow her down.
Ashley was a very ambitious young lady. She knew what she wanted in life, and she did everything she needed to do to achieve those goals.
She told me what she was gonna be before she knew what it was. She told me, Mom, I'll be a baby doctor. I said, a baby doctor? All right.
While many little girls forget their youthful dreams, Ashley holds on to hers. At Forest Brook High School, she is handpicked for their Accelerated Health Science Technology program.
Her path was clear. She volunteered for cancer walks. She volunteered with blood drives. She was a peer counselor. She was an honor roll student. She was very, very busy.
The determined high schooler packs her schedule even tighter when she gets her first job at a popular fast food restaurant. Pretty soon, her proud mother presents her with yet another first.
I popped up for school on her birthday, and I gave her some keys. I said, well, you know this car is for school and work on it. She said, that's all I need, Mom, because I'm going to college next year.
And the streak of firsts continues when her eye catches a handsome young man, 16-year-old Keith Ron Fields, Ashley's first love.
She met Keith Ron at a park one day, and then school started the following fall, and he went to school with her.
And like his new girlfriend, Keith Ron's family has recently relocated from the inner city. Things between the teenagers move fast.
They got closer in school, and they actually started saying that they were a couple at sophomore year.
But even with a new girlfriend at a new high school, Keith Ron struggles to leave his old friends behind.
Keith Ron and Ashley were very different. Keith Ron's crew was made up of kids who no one would be surprised, frankly, if they got into trouble.
This appears to have been a case of the good girl meets the bad boy. And even though in the movies we see that the opposites attract and the relationship works out, the reality is these sorts of situations rarely work out.
And it's her blind attraction to this street-hard teenager that will lead Ashley in a deadly direction.
It was young love, and that makes it the dangerous kind of love.
She was on a path straight to disaster.
In Houston, Texas, 16-year-old Ashley Irvin has an active life as a thriving high school student. But that all falls to the wayside after she begins dating tough guy Keith Ron Fields.
She was very driven and focused, but when she met Keith Ron, she shifted her focus and he became her main priority.
If you see Ashley, 2 seconds later, here comes Keith Ron. If you saw Keith Ron, 2 seconds later, here comes Ashley.
For their first 8 months together, the lovebirds go for long car rides, watch movies, or just hang out and chill. For a while, Ashley is the young man's whole world. But the honeymoon comes to a screeching halt when in rolls a third wheel from the old hood.
Keith Ron loves Ashley, but his heart is still with his crew,
Play, baby, come on now.
namely Dexter Johnson.
Dexter was the leader of the crew. He was a dominant type. He was volatile also. Ashley and Dexter actually knew each other as children.
But Dexter isn't the same kid she used to play hide and seek with. And she isn't crazy about sharing her new man with his old friend.
Ashley saw Dexter as perhaps an unfortunate part of the package.
Ashley put up with Dexter being around her and Keith Ron because she really needed to have that connection. Being so young and so now dependent on Keith Ron, she was willing to put up with any kind of arrangement.
Desperate to be with her man, Ashley, now 17, joins the boys one night as they cruise the streets.
Ashley has the car, so it's natural that they would want her to ride along.
The trio drives around for hours. Bored and exhausted, she finally agrees to let Dexter take the wheel.
She got in the back seat because she was tired and she fell asleep. She woke up when she heard the car door slam, and Keith Ron say, that woman didn't have any money.
It's clear the boys have been up to no good. From the sound of it, they've been robbing people. As far as she can tell, so far they've come up empty.
After this apparent failed robbery attempt of a woman at a bus stop who said she had no money, no jewelry, Dexter was pretty frustrated. He told Ashley, just drive them back to Keith Ron's house. Ashley started the drive home. All of a sudden, the boys told her, pull over. They see a man at a car wash.
The apprehensive teen does as she's told.
Dexter and Keith Ron immediately jump out with their guns. Dexter was not about to go home empty-handed. He saw this man as an easy target. It was dark, he was alone, and a few minutes later, Ashley heard one gunshot.
The boys yell for Ashley to pick them up. They hop in, and the teenagers speed off.
Come on, let's go, let's go!
Dexter vents his frustrations, feeling punked by the man who claimed he had no cash.
Ashley was curious about what just happened, and Dexter said, "I had to do it."
Shocked by his callous admission, she makes the drive back in stunned silence.
Ashley realizes how dangerous this combination of Dexter and Keith Ron is, and that maybe her life is in jeopardy if she says something. She knows she's the getaway driver, so there is no turning back.
Back at Keith Ron's house, they immediately turn on the TV.
Dexter was particularly interested in watching the news to see if there were any living witnesses left.
They learned from watching the news that the man was 61-year-old Brady Davis. He was a retired school teacher from Forest Brook, the same high school where Ashley and Keith Ron attended.
And it turns out that the guy who they shot died.
In the weeks that follow, Ashley and Keith Ron keep to themselves. When they finally reunite with Dexter, Ashley doesn't dare bring up the shooting.
What's up with you, baby girl?
But before she knew it, she was back running the street with the guys.
Dexter told Keith Ron and Ashley that he was tired of petty crimes that didn't yield much money. He said he wanted to steal a car and then sell it. And he needed Keith Ron's help, and he needed Ashley's help.
I think she was put in a situation where if she walked away, they would come after her, or people she loved to care about.
Without wasting any time, the two musketeers, with Ashley as the reluctant third, begin prowling the streets. It's not long before they spot the perfect ride.
They finally saw a couple sitting in a car in front of a house. The young woman was named Maria. They were parked in front of her boyfriend's house. His name was Huey.
Dexter saw this as an opportunity. Not only could he steal a car, he could also rob the couple of their money.
Dexter and Keith Ron got out of the car. They ran up to the couple's car and started banging on the windows, showing them their weapons and demanding that the couple get out of the car.
At first, Maria refuses, but she sees the danger in their eyes and timidly opens the door.
He forced her out of that car and dragged her out by her hair.
Keith Ron and Dexter ordered Maria and Huey into the back seat.
The boys tell Ashley to follow them. After a 30-minute drive, they all arrive at a dark, deserted area close to a park.
Once they got to that wooded area, Dexter and Keith Ron demanded that Maria and Huey get out of the back seat. They demanded their wallets. They demanded their ATM PIN numbers. The couple gave them everything they asked for.
But for Dexter, it's still not enough.
Dexter hit Huey in the head with his gun and told Huey to get on the ground and take off his shirt.
Start taking them clothes off.
They ordered Maria to get completely naked, and Dexter told Maria to get into the back seat of the car.
Get in the car.
Ashley, frozen with fear, watches in terror as Dexter starts to undo his belt.
Things got completely out of hand.
Ashley was in way over her head, and there appeared to be no way out.
Houston teen Ashley Irvin finds herself right in the middle of a terrifying scene. All thanks to her boyfriend, Keith Ron Fields,
What do you want? Shut up!
and his boy, Dexter Johnson.
Open up the purse.
Ashley had just seen her boyfriend, the guy she loves, take a young couple hostage. She couldn't believe her eyes. She couldn't believe she was a part of this.
And the night is only going to get worse.
Start taking them clothes off.
She saw Dexter unbuckling his belt, and she knew what she was about to witness was a rape.
She is both heartbroken and disgusted to see Keith Ron chiming in on the heinous act.
Keith Ron was actually taunting Huey, telling Huey to watch as his brother Dexter raped his girlfriend.
After Dexter raped Maria, apparently she wasn't even able to stand and walk. She was so devastated, so distraught.
Ashley perhaps didn't tell them to stop, didn't go to the police, because she knew if she said something, it could cost her her own life.
Dexter and Keith Ron still aren't finished.
Within moments, Ashley hears gunshots.
Dexter and Keith Ron walk back from the woods, and Huey and Maria aren't with them. Dexter tells Ashley that they have to get out of there.
Dexter and Keith Ron got in the stolen car, with Ashley following. The three of them all went to a gas station where Dexter used Maria's stolen ATM and put gas in both cars.
They head home, and Ashley is deeply burdened by yet another secret.
It was bad enough that Ashley was involved in that first murder, but now she's caught between a rock and a hard place. She really loves Keith Ron, but she also knows what she's doing is wrong. She is in limbo.
Over the next few days, the once promising high school junior's life comes crashing down.
Dexter was arrested on an unrelated drug and weapons charge.
While he's being questioned, the cops have an extraordinary stroke of luck.
Maria's dad called the police and reported her missing.
Maria's father informs police that there are several charges on her credit card. When they check the surveillance footage at a gas station, police see Dexter using her credit card. Investigators already have their prime suspect sitting in interrogation. When they press him, the young gangster quickly cracks.
Dexter admitted to raping Maria and walking them into the woods, but he denies shooting them.
I ain't killed nobody.
Dexter was very quick to turn on his friends.
You need to talk to Keith Ron and Ashley, not me.
He tried to pin all the crimes on Keith Ron. He tried anything to save his own skin.
A few hours later, detectives locate Ashley at work and bring her in for her side of the story.
When police questioned Ashley, she was terrified. This is a girl who had never been in trouble with the law.
At first, Ashley didn't want to answer too many questions because she didn't want to implicate Keith Ron.
But pretty soon, the frightened teenager starts to talk. She gives police every last detail of what went down. Later that night, Keith Ron also lays it out on the line, and their stories match.
Both Ashley and Keith Ron made it clear to the authorities that it was Dexter who had committed the murders.
All three teenagers are convicted of capital murder. Dexter Johnson receives the death penalty.
Ashley and Keith Ron both received life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Ashley may have only acted as the getaway driver, but she will pay heavily for her involvement.
I asked my daughter why. What happened? Why you didn't tell me something? I could have helped you. I found out later why she would never tell me what happened, because she was feared for my life.
It appears that Ashley stayed in the relationship because she appeared to truly be afraid for her life. But from a psychological point of view, she didn't have a male figure growing up, and Keith Ron became that substitute. Ashley should have gone to the police at the first sign of trouble. She cost people their lives and ruined her own life in the process.
If Ashley had not gotten involved with Keith Ron, the sky was the limit for her.
She had so much going for her, and she gave it all up for nothing.
Young girls often dream of finding Mr. Right, someone handsome and charming to love and cherish forever. And when Mr. Right says to them, "You're mine," it can feel like a dream come true. But good looks and a winning personality can sometimes conceal darker desires. And when they say, "You're mine," they don't mean to honor and cherish till death do you part. They mean they're going to control you, to manipulate you, to keep you all to themselves, no matter the cost. It's just after midnight on Mother's Day 2010. The streets are quiet in Hayward, California, just east of Oakland. 28-year-old Anita Reyes and her friend are driving home from a party. They turn onto West Park Street and spot something peculiar in the distance.
They see a car parked on the street, male and female, off to the side, two men laying face down in the street. That did not look like a normal situation to them.
The two women continue driving. Then, suddenly, a burst of gunfire rings out behind them.
They decide, probably not a good place to be.
As her friend slams on the gas, Anita dials 911. She tells the emergency operator that she saw an African-American couple near the car, two other men on the ground, and she heard multiple gunshots being fired. Police descend on the scene.
There was a white car nearby. Officers find a Hispanic male laying in the street.
They check for vitals, but realize it's too late.
It was pretty clear that it was a close-range shot from a powerful gun of some kind.
That's when officers hear a cry for help from behind a nearby hedge.
They find another victim who's been shot several times.
This second victim is alive, but just barely.
This young man was clearly in a lot of pain. He was in shock.
Given the man's injuries, officers aren't certain he'll survive. They ask the victim to ID his shooter and take careful steps to record his response.
You don't know if the person's going to say something important. And if you can get the last words from anyone who's dying, it's used in court as what they call a dying declaration.
Before he's rushed to the hospital, the victim utters two crucial clues.
They shot me and took my money, which confirmed with the police that this was a robbery, and he indicated they, letting them know that there was at least two people involved.
Police will soon unravel the mystery behind the bloodshed and discover just how far one teenager would go to please her man. 17-year-old Tiara Arnold had the world at her feet.
Tiara was a very smart kid. She was kind of quiet, but very athletic.
She was beautiful. Tiara definitely had my back when it came down to pretty much everything. She could do no wrong in my eyes.
The promise of Tiara's future shined bright.
She was going to school, working, modeling, and had dreams of being a Coast Guard. She had a lot of ambition. She wanted to reach the stars.
But life hadn't been perfect for the teen.
Her dad got killed when she was 6 months old.
It affected her by not having that father figure. She needed that. I believe all children do, especially young girls. She had to grow up a little bit faster. She had to be more responsible.
She was more focused. She was looking at big dreams.
Soon, something else started to interest Tiara. Boys.
She started dressing up more, wearing dresses and high heels. I wouldn't necessarily say boy crazy, more like boy curious. We both dated in like school. You know, we call them boyfriends at school. Just like somebody we would hang out with at school and talk to at school, but nothing real serious.
That all changed when Tiara started seeing handsome charmer Isaiah Washington.
Isaiah was 4 years older. He was her first serious relationship. He would pick her up and take her to school. It just kind of consumed her.
I thought he was a nice guy. He kept her happy. And majority of her time was spent with Isaiah.
Tiara thought Isaiah was fine and more mature than the boys at her high school.
I met Isaiah one time. I was having a barbecue picnic and Tiara and him pulled up. She was like, "Auntie, this is my boyfriend, Isaiah." My first thought was, he looks a lot older than you.
He was in college, so he was an adult. I said, okay, good. She has a guy that's in college and, you know, they could possibly have a good future. But I thought he was a really nice guy, very respectable.
The connection between Tiara and Isaiah was undeniable.
She felt like an adult. It's hard to explain. Being a teenager and you fall in love with a nice looking man, it got exciting to her.
In Isaiah, Tiara felt like she'd found her Mr. Right. She was in the relationship for the long haul, even if it would end up costing her everything. Hayward police are investigating the street robbery and shooting of 2 young men. Neighbors have come forward to identify the victims. 2 well-liked teens from the neighborhood, named Rafael Avila and Carlos Buenrostro.
They were 18-year-olds. They were recent graduates of the local high school, just 2 normal kids.
Friends and family were completely shocked and had no idea why it happened.
Rafael had been shot 12 times and was pronounced dead on the scene. Carlos had been rushed to the hospital with multiple gunshot wounds, but died shortly after his arrival.
These 2 young men were best friends. They did everything together, and now they've died together.
Police have a double homicide on their hands and few clues to go on.
As cops, of course, we want to know the answers, obviously, to what caused it. Why did this happen?
Answering the question of who killed Carlos and Rafael and why will lead detectives down a twisted path and ultimately to a love-struck 17-year-old at the center of it all.
When you in love, you having fun, and it's just the spice and the excitement and the thrill, but it all comes with a price.
By the spring of 2010, 17-year-old Tiara Arnold has fallen hard for her first serious boyfriend, 21-year-old Isaiah Washington.
Isaiah filled the void of her dad not being in her life. She was happy with the excitement that they had going on.
However, the 4-year age difference between the 2 young lovers gives Tiara's family some concern.
I didn't think he was good for her because I thought he was too old.
She always was like, oh, don't worry. Like, she really just kind of blew them off.
But young Tiara would soon regret ignoring her family's words of wisdom. Homicide investigators are working the murders of 2 18-year-olds, Rafael Avila and Carlos Buenrostro. The lifelong friends were just blocks from home when they were gunned down execution style.
All the police knew at this point was that 2 young men had been shot, apparently during a robbery. They had no idea who was responsible.
There was a white car that was located nearby, basically, I believe, at the feet of the victim. So the police were able to surmise that the white vehicle is associated with the murder and robbery of these 2 individuals.
The forensics team dusts the car for prints and lifts several sets to be analyzed. Then they move on to the ballistics.
One of the most critical pieces of evidence that they found at the scene were shell casings that belonged to an AK-47 assault rifle.
The cops found nearly 2 dozen shell casings. That's a lot of gunfire.
There was definitely an intent to kill these people.
Officers expand the search area and recover even more shell casings several yards away, which provides detectives additional information about how the shooting went down.
Victim number 1 shot 12 times, victim number 2 shot 5 times, and there were a total of 24 shell casings, indicating that several rounds didn't hit either of the two of them, and may have in fact been fired at somebody else.
Not far from the shell casings, police discover another potential clue: a cell phone.
They don't know whose it is. Is it one of the victims? Could it belong to a suspect? Or could have nothing to do with this case at all?
Investigators bag the phone as evidence and continue searching the scene. They also release an APB across the Bay Area for suspects who fit the description provided by the 911 caller. A young man and woman, possibly a couple, both African American, who may have fled the scene in a green sedan. Moments later, less than a mile from the crime scene, a patrol officer notices a car matching the description stopped on the side of the road.
They're just looking for anything that looks out of place, suspicious.
Inside the vehicle, the officer sees a male driver and a female passenger.
He saw what appeared to be a very animated argument, so it attracted attention.
The officer actually shines his light into the car just to get a better look at what's going on.
The driver of the sedan reacts and speeds away. The officer flips on his lights and pursues the vehicle.
A high-speed chase ensues. At this point, they really don't even know if they're dealing with the suspects, but they need to talk to these people.
The vehicle manages to evade the officer for a moment.
The chase goes into Oakland. Ultimately, they find the vehicle abandoned.
The officer approaches the vehicle cautiously. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he sees a woman running in the opposite direction.
She's just scrambling, trying to get away.
The officer orders the woman to stop. She complies. But when the officer goes to cuff her, he realizes she's only a teenager. And what she tells him next comes as a surprise.
What she told them was, I'm the victim. I was the victim of a carjacking.
It's May 9th, 2010. In Hayward, California, police are investigating the robbery and execution-style murders of 18-year-olds Rafael Avila and Carlos Buenrostro. Thanks to an APB, they now have a potential suspect in custody: the female passenger of a green sedan that was just involved in a high-speed chase. As she's being cuffed, the young woman makes a startling claim.
She puts out a story that she's the victim, in this case, that she's the victim of a carjacking and that she was running because she was afraid.
The arresting officer isn't so sure.
Her demeanor during this time was not the demeanor of someone who's been forcibly removed from their car at gunpoint, kidnapped, anything like that. She was calm, she was cool-headed. Police run the license plate of the green vehicle that they were chasing and find that it was registered to Tiara Arnold.
Is the bright 17-year-old Tiara truly involved in this gruesome double homicide? If so, why? And where is the unidentified man who was driving Tiara's car during the chase with police? Thankfully, detectives don't have to wait long to answer that last question.
Police resumed the search for the male half that was in the vehicle, and a few blocks away, locate a male hiding underneath a van. He's placed into custody, and he's identified as Isaiah Washington.
With both Isaiah and Tiara in custody, investigators bring them back to the station for questioning. They start with Tiara.
Tiara sticks with her story about being a carjacking victim.
What's more, police are struck by the 17-year-old's attitude.
Her behavior is outside the norm for anyone that's claiming to be a victim. It's kind of like, you can't touch me.
When pressed about her possible involvement in the shooting, Tiara claims ignorance.
She said she had nothing to do with it and she had never held a gun before in her life.
During his interrogation, 21-year-old Isaiah has even less to say.
During the interrogation, he doesn't give any information at all.
Fortunately for detectives, Washington is already in the system. Isaiah's record reveals he's recently been released on probation after serving time in an Alameda County jail for armed robbery. Details of that case shed additional light on the relationship between Isaiah and 17-year-old Tiara Arnold.
Tiara and Isaiah were alleged to have committed a crime together prior.
The incident report suggests that not long after Tiara and Isaiah got together, Isaiah hatched a plan to rob one of Tiara's former high school boyfriends.
Part of it was to humiliate the ex-boyfriend. Isaiah wanted to show the ex-boyfriend that he's the new sheriff in town. He's the guy who now owns this woman, basically.
Isaiah's scheme was designed to put Tiara's love for him to the test.
I think this was kind of Isaiah's way of initiating Tiara into his influence, that it's a test of loyalty.
In November 2008, Tiara arranged for a secret hookup with her former boyfriend.
Tiara lured him to an undisclosed location under the guise that Tiara was going to have sex with this young man.
Once they parked the car, Isaiah came out from hiding. He approached the window and pointed a gun at Tiara's ex.
Isaiah allegedly stole the kid's cell phone, earrings.
With Tiara's ex at gunpoint, Isaiah pumped him for details about his previous relationship with Tiara.
Isaiah had asked him if she had had sex with him. He said yes, and she said no, and he told her to slap the mother.
Tiara did precisely as Isaiah instructed.
He wanted to see if she was going to do whatever he told her to do, no matter what.
She wanted to prove her love to Isaiah, and no better way to prove her love to him, in her mind, than to slap her ex-boyfriend.
Tiara's ex reported the incident to police, and Tiara and Isaiah were arrested. Since Tiara was a minor, her charges were handled in the juvenile court system. That wasn't the case for Isaiah.
Isaiah was an adult, so he was treated in adult court.
He went to jail for a year for the robbery.
Tiara didn't want to leave him. She didn't want to leave their relationship, but the whole family knew that this guy is into something that's not right.
Given that Tiara and Isaiah are back in custody, just a week after Isaiah's release, it seems the couple has picked up right where they left off. As day breaks the following morning, detectives reach out to Tiara's friends and family to gain additional insight into the couple's relationship. They say that just a few weeks after Tiara and Isaiah started dating, they could tell her Mr. Right was all wrong for her.
He was controlling the things that she needed to do, how she dressed. He wanted her to stop going to school as well as modeling. He would call her all day, back to back. Where are you? Who you with? He would be like so angry. It just seemed like he was very controlling of her. It was a battle. I could do my best to explain to her that he's not no good for you, but how can I do that when she's heads over heels? She has the dream man that she thought was in her life.
Tiara's family claims that when Isaiah got locked up on the armed robbery charges, they put even more pressure on Tiara to leave him. But Tiara was having none of it.
When we would try to talk to her about it, she would kind of get offensive because my sister lost her father when she was very young. So I think somehow she really connected with Isaiah.
After Isaiah's release, Tiara began spending more time away from home in order to be with him, and eventually stopped coming home altogether.
I was barely seeing her at this time. It was like she was battling with her family, and her man. It was like, I love my family, but I love my man too. She started fading away from the family, slowly but surely after that.
The jail time, the family battles, the desire for someone to fill the void left by her father's untimely death. To detectives, it seems these outside forces simply drove Tiara deeper into Isaiah's arms. Perhaps the stakes to prove her love for him had escalated from armed robbery to murder.
I don't know what it was, but them two that came together, it was just kind of like destruction. As a woman, when you're in love with a man, you can't help but try to appease your man, not realizing that it's pulling you away from what you already had, you know, your family or your school or your life or your work. That's what happened with Isaiah and Tiara. As she was going down one path until she met him, and it kind of changed her path.
Police in Hayward, California, have just booked 21-year-old Isaiah Washington for evading police and violating probation. They suspect he may be responsible for the double homicide of 2 Bay Area teenagers.
The cops get Mr. Washington in custody. He was in on a robbery previously, and he's not cooperative, and he's not giving the cops anything.
Investigators also suspect Isaiah's 17-year-old girlfriend, Tiara Arnold, was involved in the slayings.
Cops collect DNA and fingerprint samples from both Tiara and Isaiah.
Detectives send the samples to the lab for comparison with those collected from both the crime scene and Tiara's green sedan.
It's going to take a little time to analyze all the forensic evidence and the physical evidence.
But until detectives get further evidence connecting the duo to the crimes, Tiara is free to go.
There was no real evidence linking her to the homicide, so she was released. After Isaiah was arrested and interrogated, he was taken to the county jail.
Because he's on probation, they're able to hold him.
Even though Tiara is no longer in custody, police still believe she holds the key to solving the case.
In a case like this, sometimes letting the suspect go when you know that they have close ties allows you to gather stronger evidence to be able to present a case to the DA.
For now, investigators turn their attention to the cell phone they found near the crime scene.
It was actually found just laying in the middle of the street, and it could be a critical piece of evidence.
They trace it to a 16-year-old high school student named Jocelyn Moore.
They do more digging on Jocelyn. They learn that she attends high school in Hayward.
Police find Jocelyn at her parents' house and question her about the murders of Carlos Buenrostro and Rafael Avila. From the get-go, it seems Jocelyn is holding something back.
She doesn't want to cooperate. She doesn't want to be called a snitch.
Detectives explain to Jocelyn that if she is the only eyewitness to the crime, Isaiah and Tiara may soon be gunning for her as well.
The cops tell her that, you know what, we're worried about you. You might be hit next.
She has to start linking the dots that, it's related to her cell phone being found at the scene, and that next time she may not be as lucky.
The police were telling her that her life was in danger from Isaiah and Tiara, and that she really needed to pull it together to testify.
Finally, Jocelyn agrees to come clean.
Jocelyn tells police that she knows Tiara.
Jocelyn reveals that she and Tiara first became friends at school, but that over the last few months, the two had grown extremely close.
Jocelyn is much more than Tiara's friend. Tiara and Jocelyn were involved in a romantic relationship, specifically while Isaiah was in prison.
Jocelyn tells police that the physical aspect of their relationship ended once Isaiah was released from jail, but that she and Tiara remained friends. Jocelyn goes on to explain that on the evening of May 8th, 2010, Tiara invited her to a party.
Tiara invited Jocelyn to come with her for a barbecue to celebrate Isaiah getting out of jail.
Jocelyn happily accepted.
But later that evening, Jocelyn realized there was not going to be any barbecue and that the couple had other plans.
According to Jocelyn, those plans ended with the murders of Carlos Buenrostro and Rafael Avila.
Jocelyn's testimony was probably among the most powerful pieces of evidence they had.
With Jocelyn's statement in tow, detectives searched for additional evidence against their suspects. Meanwhile, Tiara and Isaiah's bond appears to only be growing stronger.
He would call home from jail. They would communicate.
They were clearly still in love. In the jail phone calls, everything was, "I love you, baby. Don't worry, we got this."
And it's Tiara's unwavering loyalty to Isaiah that leads detectives to the smoking gun and could ultimately clinch the case against both of them.
She didn't know where the evidence was, but the cops were smarter than she was.
Detectives in Hayward, California have found a cooperative witness who seems to link Tiara Arnold and Isaiah Washington to the double murder of 2 local teenagers.
Jocelyn was there. She saw the killing.
With Isaiah in custody on a parole violation, the search is on for any physical evidence that corroborates Jocelyn's statement and ties Tiara and Isaiah to the murders. A month passes with no new leads. Finally, in June of 2010, results come in from the fingerprint samples collected at the crime scene.
The crime scene unit did find different fingerprints on the victim's vehicle. They found out after that those prints belonged to Tiara Arnold.
Other samples place Isaiah Washington both at the crime scene and in possession of a firearm.
Gunshot residue tests positively identified gunshot residue particles on Isaiah's hands, his clothing. They also located gunshot residue in Tiara's vehicle.
Despite this new cache of physical evidence, detectives feel they need more.
The gunshot residue evidence that's been collected is primarily circumstantial.
Detectives shift their focus to finding the AK-47 used in the shooting and the stolen property belonging to the 2 victims.
Tiara's been released, but Isaiah is still in custody, so the investigators decide to monitor all of Isaiah's phone calls from jail to try to catch them into some incriminating statement.
They were in communication every day with each other.
The first few calls between Tiara and Isaiah sound typical of a young couple madly in love with one another.
The couple's all lovey-dovey on the phone, saying, I love you back.
But as the calls continue, their conversations shift toward darker subjects.
Isaiah tells her that he heard that the 2 men died, and he tells her, you offed them. And then she responds, so what? I'm out here.
It's a shocking statement from the 17-year-old.
Then she says, if I get I know who I'm going to kill.
Police suspect Tiara is referring to her friend, Jocelyn Moore, who was present during the crime.
It seemed as if the 2 of them, if they were going to go down, they were going to go down together.
Then Isaiah asks Tiara if she's found the stuff.
Sounds to the police like Washington is directing her to get something that he has stashed, some evidence that's been stashed somewhere.
The detectives take notes as Isaiah gives Tiara coded directions to a backyard in Oakland, not far from where Isaiah was apprehended. Armed with this new information, detectives race to the location.
In a backyard, underneath some tires, they find Isaiah's keys and Rafael's key and cell phone. They also find Tiara's ID. This was the motherlode of evidence.
Police do not locate the murder weapon, an AK-47. But they do have enough to bring charges against both Isaiah and Tiara for the murders. On July 29, 2010, More than 2 months after the killings, police obtain an arrest warrant for Tiara Arnold. They intercept her at a local job placement organization, where she is arriving for an interview. Tiara is taken into custody without incident.
We got that phone call that they arrested her again and they were keeping her. That's when I finally found out that Tiara was involved in something.
I was shocked. I could not believe it. For me to hear that my sister, I thought it was ridiculous, unbelievable.
We cried for like days because it was so disheartening.
I dealt with a lot of emotions. The emotions of what is going on? What did Isaiah do to my daughter? I mean, how could you love somebody and turn around and put a person in this situation?
Tiara and Isaiah are charged with murder and armed robbery. As prosecutors prepare for trial, they plan to add another crime to the list of charges: the attempted murder of Tiara's high school friend, Jocelyn Moore.
The romantic relationship that had been going on when he was in prison was reason enough for Washington to actually want to kill Jocelyn.
And Jocelyn's testimony in court will finally shed light on what went down that fateful night.
Jocelyn's outside the car, hears all these shots being fired. Then she says that she heard Isaiah say, "Shoot that bitch," referring to her.
While Isaiah was in jail, Tiara and Jocelyn were, friends, but also lovers. And when Isaiah got out, I think there was some jealousy between the three. Isaiah was jealous of Jocelyn because during the time that he was away, Tiara had gone with her. For a narcissistic person, it's like stepping on his property, right? It's taking a little piece of what's his. And Isaiah started to become angry about it.
In March 2015, Tiara Arnold and Isaiah Washington stand trial for the murders of 18-year-old recent high school graduates Rafael Avila and Carlos Buenrostro.
Best friends, grew up together, went to high school together, and on their parents' wishes, they were actually buried together.
Tiara's family is still reeling from the realization that she may have been involved in a gruesome crime, and, if convicted, is looking at some serious prison time.
I was angry and I was upset.
I couldn't feel anything at that time. I was numb. I was worried about her. I didn't know what was going on.
Tiara and Isaiah are tried together, but are represented by different attorneys. Neither defendant testifies on their own behalf. But Jocelyn Moore, the prosecution's key witness, does take the stand. She tells the jury what really happened in the hours leading up to the murders.
When Isaiah was released from jail, Tiara had planned a welcome home party for him.
According to Jocelyn, Isaiah and Tiara picked her up that evening.
They cruised around and started drinking tequila straight out of the bottle. And before you know it, the whole bottle was done.
After a while, Isaiah drove them to his house. According to Jocelyn, that's when the night began to unravel.
Jocelyn figures out pretty quickly there's no barbecue. Turns out it's just the three of them.
Jocelyn states at that time that she wanted to go home.
But Isaiah had other plans.
Isaiah is telling Jocelyn that, hey, we're gonna have sex.
He wanted a three-way. Jocelyn was very uncomfortable. She said no several times.
Jocelyn testifies that every time she rebuffed Isaiah's advances, he became increasingly agitated.
I don't think Tiara foresaw that there would have been such a problem. Probably because she was naive as to the ways of a narcissistic, dominant, abusive male.
Jocelyn says eventually Tierra agreed to take her home, and the two waited outside in Tierra's car for Isaiah.
After 10 minutes of waiting in the car, Isaiah comes back with a long gun. He tells Jocelyn, "We're taking you home, but we're dropping you off dead."
Tiara is telling Isaiah, take her home. Tiara was really wanting to just diffuse the situation, but Isaiah was escalating.
Jocelyn is definitely fearing for her life at this point.
Jocelyn states that not long after they started to drive, Isaiah pulled over and ordered everyone out of the car.
Now, it was assumed that Isaiah was going to kill Jocelyn because Jocelyn refused to have a three-way with him and Tiara.
At that moment, Isaiah spotted two teenagers, later identified as Carlos Buenrostro and Rafael Avila, walking toward their car.
Isaiah sees an opportunity to rob. So he takes his gun and he orders the two gentlemen to get on the ground.
Isaiah then ordered Tierra to search the young men's car. But as she's searching, Isaiah lashed out at her.
Isaiah gets upset that Tiara's touching the car and leaving her fingerprints all over.
Then, what started as a robbery seemed to escalate into a shouting match between Isaiah and Tierra.
She gets really angry at him. She goes over screaming at him, "Don't point the gun at me."
We've got a very high-stress situation. We've got a loaded, ready-to-go AK-47.
According to Jocelyn, that's when Tierra grabbed the gun from Isaiah.
According to the evidence, Tiara was kicking one of the young men who were face down and telling him to shut up because the guy was trying to plead for his life.
Jocelyn says her eyes were frozen on the ground when a barrage of gunfire exploded. She claims she didn't see who fired the shots. She only saw the victims as they were hit. Jocelyn fled the scene and heard Isaiah call out behind her.
She hears Washington yell to Tierra, "Shoot the bitch." With bullets whizzing past her, she's gone. She's in the wind.
She's running away, and at some point her cell phone comes flying out. She hides in the bushes.
Jocelyn says she hid until Tierra and Isaiah left. She also tells the jury that the incident had so terrified her, she decided not to tell anyone about it.
She does not call 911. She doesn't even report knowing anything about the incident until the police show up 4 days later.
Evidence presented during the trial corroborates Jocelyn's testimony, including Carlos Buenrostro's dying declaration.
They played the recording of his voice with him saying, "They shot me and they took my money." And this really just showed the jury just how brutal these murders were.
Isaiah's attorneys argue that while their client initiated the robbery, it was Tierra who fired the kill shots.
Isaiah's attorney argued that Tiara went crazy at the scene. She was the sole person who decided to pull the trigger that night, and that Isaiah had never meant to harm anyone at all.
But Tierra's attorneys tell the court that Isaiah was the real mastermind behind the crime.
Tierra's attorneys argued that Isaiah brought the gun to the robberies, and if he wouldn't have did that, then there wouldn't have been any murders at all.
Prosecutors contend it doesn't matter who ultimately pulled the trigger, because both Tierra and Isaiah are responsible.
They went out to commit this robbery. What happened at that robbery, why the trigger was pulled, it doesn't matter. They were both in on it.
Within hours, the jury convicts both Isaiah and Tierra of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The couple is also found guilty of the attempted murder of Jocelyn Moore.
The real tragedy here is, of course, the victims. This senseless robbery escalated into homicide and took their lives at such a young age.
2 victims are gone. I feel bad. I feel bad for the families that lost their family. I feel bad for my daughter that she's lost now in the system. It's crazy because why would you be in a relationship and you say you love somebody and then here you guys commit crimes?
Isaiah Washington is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Tiara Arnold is sentenced to 95 years to life. She is eligible for parole in 2036, but is currently appealing her conviction.
I've always told her, you have to pay for what you've done. But he was controlling her mind, and I'm angry at Isaiah for just putting her in this position. She did it for her man, and she did it out of love. Whatever she was doing, she thought she was doing the best for her relationship.
People who are in similar situations, they can become very codependent, and so that they base their value and their worth on making their partner happy. What that means is one person has complete and total control.
True love turns passion into devotion. I want you. I need you. You're mine. But if you're not careful, that passion can morph into desperation, violence, control. And suddenly, your Mr. Right is Mr. Wrong. Dead wrong.
अल्फ अल्लाह की जात तू ऐ झोरे सदके जेड़ो कुल कायनात चलाण आलो अल्फ अल्लाह की जात तू झोरे सदके जेड़ो कुल कायनात चलाण आलो हुक्म उसके बाजना पत्थर अल्लाह ओ तेरो मेरो वजूद बनाण आलो 18,000 मखलूक गो ऐ मालिक सुनो रब सुनो जमीन आसमान आलो अर्श फर्श लो कलम महफूज कुर्सी जिया जून ना रिज़्क खिलाण आलो दाल दुखांगी गल सो नौरे तमना एक बच्ची मासूम रोलाओ गई है दाल दुखांगी गल सो नौरे तमना एक बच्ची मासूम रोलाओ गई है ओ उसकी मारे गुलनाज है बहुत दुखिया मारा सीना माँ बर छिलाओ गई है नाओ बच्ची गो अफसा में मूद सुनो रोग उमरा गो सुनी लाओ गई है ओ जिला पुणछ गिरा शिंदरा सुनो ऐ दुखिया दिलाना अफजारो लाओ गई है दाल दर्द जो दयागा आई बोते ओ खाए पर बचागी नारे जो दई ओवे दाल दर्द जो दयागा आई बोते ओ खाए पर बचागी नारे जो दई होवे ओ माना सबर करार फिर नहीं रहा तो दख्ते जिगर की जद जुदाई होवे बाप उसको मैं मुँह दियो हुसैन दुखिया अफसा जही बची सीने लाई होवे ओ दुख मुझ जावेद माँ बाप नावे ओ बचा किसे की नारे जो दई होवे तेरे हो रब गा करम तमाम होए आस्तारा अप्रैल ना खुशी भरपूर होई रे हो रब गा करम तमाम होए आस्तारा अप्रैल ना खुशी भरपूर होई ओ अल्लाह पाक ने दिती एक बच्चियों सोनी ऐ गुनाहगारां की अर्ज मंजूर होई दिन माँ दाखिल रही महारात ऐ 10 बजे ऑपरेशन होयो ते टेंशन दूर होई ओ दीती खबर फिर आनी उन डॉक्टरां ने हो गई बची पर बड़ी कमजोरी होई सलाह दीती वीर डॉक्टर है कमजोर बची ले गए बीच मशीन रखाओ दीती सलाह दीती डॉक्टर है कमजोर बची ले गए बीच मशीन रखाओ दीती 18-19 तक रखी पुणछ अंदर और पर इकी नर जोरी कराओ दीती आई रात 9 बजे मामू आई नानी दोए गड्डी तरफ जोरी चलाओ दीती ओ मासा देरी ना लाई ले चल गया ओ 12 बजे जोरी पहुंचाओ दीती किसना चैन सकून फिरे आई उस दिन तो रास्ता बिच डाडा परेशान होया आई किसना चैन सकून फिरे आई उस दिन तो रास्ता बिच डाडा परेशान होया रात 12 बजे लेरा जोरी पुजया कि जल्दी डॉक्टरां कोल रवाने होया आई डॉक्टर नब्ज तके मुतू ये बोल न सके असली राज तू बे वो हैरान होया ओ अमानत रब की है तुम सबर करियो ए आपसा बची गारू वे रवानी होया ते किसना होश रे ओ सुनी ये खबर जिस दम आया है आप जायमना छोड़ गई है। ऐ किसना होश रे ओ सुनी ये खबर जिस दम आया है आप जायमना छोड़ गई है। ये एम्बुलेंस करी वापस पुणच चलना मारी किस्मत अज मुखरे मोड़ गई है। आई गुल नाज वाणी अरे ईमान बाकी मेरी खुशी ना किंगा तू रोड़ गई है। दाखिल बीच अस्पताल थी पुणछ अंदर ये मांगुल नाज गो दिल क्यों तोड़ गई है। अप्रैल बईना सुबह गए आई 5 बजे वतन शींदरा पुजे आयान सदके। अप्रैल बईना सुबह गए 5 बजे वतन शींदरा पुजे आयान सदके। ये माना 10 बजे एम्बुलेंस आने तेरा तकन गायब जायर मान सदके। ते कितना दुख था महंगा ऐ काल जामा जाने वाया रब रहमान सदके। और वे बाप महमूद परवेज नानी नाले रोवे सजाद यमान सदके। ते कफन दफन गो विलोणे यार गयो इना दुकाना उण मीटौरे किसरा। कफन दफन गो विलोणे हार गयो इना दुकाना उण मीटौरे किसरा। ओ जीता मांगे बचा गो टूर जानो इस शेर बर कलम चनो किसरा। ते अच्छा रब वाले हुणे आई छोड़ गई है तीना सिना नालू हुण लो किसरा। सबर या तो नी दिल मां याद तेरी रोता दिला ना चुप करूं किसरा। फिया मान इना दुखाने आई मुकनो नी 4 बजे रे आपका दफनाओ छोड़ी। आई फिया मान इना दुखाने मुकनो नी 4 बजे रे आपका दफनाओ छोड़ी। वतन पुणछ गिरा शींदरा अंदर ओ सोनी निकी जी कबर बनाओ छोड़ी। सबर करियो महमूद गुल नाज दोए मानत रब गी रब ने छुपाओ छोड़ी ओए पिया मान जावे तू इजाजत ले ले जख्म मोड़ी भी क्यों रे दुखाओ छोड़ी